Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be discussing my presentation which talks about the anatomy of the eye and the LASIK surgery. So for the introduction, the eye is a specialized sense organ that helps us understand our environment. It is a sensory unit composed of three parts: the receptor, the sensory pathway, and the brain center. As we can see here, this is the eye, this is the brain. We have the optic nerve. The optic nerve, it transmits the visual information from the eye, specifically the retina, to the brain. We have the optic chiasm, which is the crossover of the optic nerve. We have the optic tract. It's just a tract that transmits the impulses from the optic nerve and the crossing over to the LGN, which is the lateral geniculate nucleus. The lateral geniculate nucleus, this part here, it receives the sensory input from the optic nerves, and it creates the visual pathway. Then we have the optic radiation, which is right here. They are axons from the neurons in the lateral geniculate nucleus. And these axons of the nucleus, they take it directly to the primary visual cortex, which is right here. That is located in the occipital lobe of the brain. And the primary visual cortex, they receive, they integrate, and they process the visual information that they get from the optic nerves. This is the external anatomy of the eye, which includes the eyelashes that help secrete oil. They prevent eyelids from sticking together. This is the upper eyelid, and we have the lower eyelid. We have the lateral commissure, in which the eyelids meet at one end, and the medial commissure, they meet at the other end. We have the palpebral fissure right here, which has this space between the two eyelids, as we can see. We have the eyebrows. We have the pupil. It allows the light that strikes the retina. We have the iris, which is a thin structure responsible for controlling the size and the diameter of the pupil and the amount of light that will be entering the retina. We have the lacrimal carunicle, which is this small pink nodule which is made of a skin carrying sebaceous glands. And we have the conjunctiva, which covers the sclera. These are the accessory organs, and these accessory organs, they protect the eye. Example, we have the orbital cavities. As you can see here, we have 7 bones of the orbital cavities that protects the eye. We have the adipose tissue, which are the fats that acts as a cushion for the eye. They're right here. The muscles of the eye, we have 2 muscles. The first one is the extrinsic muscle, and they are located outside of the eye, as we can see in this figure. They control certain amount of movements, such as moving the eyeball from side to side, rolling our eyes. We have the intrinsic muscles, which are located inside the eye, that help hold the lens in place. As we can see, this is the intrinsic muscles right here, and they hold the lens in place, and it modifies its spherical shape. Now for the layers of the eye, we have 3 layers. We have the sclera, we have the retina, and we have the choroid, and each one contains a part. So for the sclera, which is the white outer layer of the eyeball, it's a tough fibrous membrane that helps to maintain the spherical shape of the eyeball. In the sclera, there is the cornea, which is right here, as we can see. The cornea is part of the sclerotic coat. It's transparent. It's the front part of the eyeball through which light waves pass. No blood vessels, but they have a lot of nerve endings. We have the canals of Schlemm, venous passages that drains the fluid that accumulates behind the cornea, located where the sclera and the cornea meet. And we have the conjunctiva, which is a thin transparent mucous membrane that covers the eyeball. So as we see in this figure, this is the sclera and this is the cornea. So the part where the sclera and the cornea meets, which would be right here, are the canals of Schlemm, and what covers the whole sclera, the covering of the sclera, is a part that is called the conjunctiva. Now, the third layer of the eye is a choroid layer. It is the middle layer of the eye, supplies blood vessels to the eye, and contains dark pigments, granules that prevent the reflection of the light in the eye. The choroid layer contains the ciliary body, as we've seen before, which is the muscle one, the intrinsic muscle that supports and modifies the lens shape. It contains the iris and the pupil, as we go back to the figure. So this is the choroid, the red pigment right here, which contains the iris right here, and the pupil, which would be like it would be right here. Okay, so the iris, it's a colored portion of the eye formed by circularly and radially arranged smooth muscle fibers, regulates the amount of light entering the retina by constricting or dilating the eye pupil. And the pupil is a rounded opening of the iris through which light passes through. And if you want for more modification, we can go back to the first figure. So this is the pupil and this is the iris. And the choroid layer is the one that contains those parts. The third layer is the retina, which is the innermost layer of the eye. It lines its surface and contains photoreceptors. These photoreceptors are responsible for imaging. So this is the retina. As we can see, it's the yellow pigment right here. We have here the optic nerve. So the retina contains the rods and the cones that are responsible for converting light into nerve impulses. So the rods are cylindrical photoreceptors found in greatest concentration on the edges of the retina, most common type of the receptor, and it allows us to see in low light and provide for peripheral vision. And the cones are conical photoreceptors found in the greatest concentration near the center of the retina. We have the fovea centrales and the depressions in the center of the retina that contains only cones. So mainly this is the layer part of the retina. Then we have other parts of the eyes, which is the optic disc, the lens, and the suspensory ligament. The optic disc are the area which optic nerves attaches to the retina but does not contain any photoreceptors. The lens is the flexible, biconvex, crystal-like structures that brings rays of light into focus and produces an image on the retina. And the suspensory ligament, it holds the lens in place, and they are attached to ciliary body, which is the intrinsic muscle, as you can see here. So the optic disc could be located in here. The sensory ligaments are here, which holds the lens together. And if we go back to the image of the intrinsic muscles, we would notice that the ciliary body, which is one of the intrinsic muscles, is located right here, which would hold and support the lens and suspensory ligaments together. So here would be the optic disc located, in which the retina is connected to the optic nerve. This is the lens, and these are the suspensory ligaments. So now I'm going to be talking about the LASIK part, the laser eye surgery. So the LASIK is a surgical procedure intended to reduce a person's dependency on glasses or contacts. It is a procedure that permanently changes the shape of the cornea, and the surgery requires about 15 minutes per eye. Now, before we proceed to the procedure, we ask the patient to sit back. Topical eye drops are given. We clean the area around the eye, and we give sedative medications. Now, the doctor uses an instrument called the Litt speculum. This is during the procedure. It holds the eyelid open. A ring is placed on the eye. It creates suction on the cornea. Pressure may be sensed by the patient, and dimming of vision may be felt. Once the ring is firmly in place, a special device is attached to the doctor called a microcorotum to the suction ring. If we go back to the first image, we can see that this is the lid speculum that separates the lids together, and a special instrument called the microcotum that contains a blade in which it cuts the cornea, approximately 20% of the cornea. And when it cuts the cornea, as we can see here, the doctor flips it to one side. This sheet over here is what we call the corneal flap. So, using the blade, a corneal flap is formed by cutting approximately 20% of the cornea and lifting it carefully to one side. After removing the suction ring and the microcorotum, pulses from a computer-controlled excimer laser reshapes the cornea by vaporizing tiny portions of its interior, and this part only takes less than 60 seconds. Then the corneal flap is replaced and to its original position, and several minutes, what happens is that the cornea bonds and heals quickly to the eye, and this does not require any stitches. So as you can see here, this is the laser part in which we induces it inside the eye, and then the corneal flap is returned to its position, and then few minutes and it just bonds and heals itself. After the procedure, antibiotic drops are given, and the doctor covers the eye with a shield in order for irritation, not touching it, just for it to heal. Thank you so much.